Hey folks, if you watched my previous video on restoring the engine tinware of this 1962 VW Beetle, you might have noticed that I said I wasn't going to restore the fan shroud. That's because the fan shroud is not currently hooked up to the heating system. Here in Canberra, it gets pretty cold in the winter, easily into the minus numbers pretty frequently, and I think heating is going to be pretty important. In order to get the heating system working, I've got to figure out what I'm working with. It's pretty common in these old Beetles for the heater channels down the side of the car to be completely rusted through and not working. And also there's a cable that runs to the front of the car to operate the heater flaps, which turn the heater on and off. I've got to check if all that's working, so let's go and take a look. Testing the heater channels is pretty straightforward. The gist is we're just going to blow some air through them and see if it comes out inside the cabin through the vents. To do that, we're going to need some sticky tape, some old hose, and a leaf blower or workshop blower. The heater channels themselves run down the sides of the car and exit into the engine bay. There's one on each side and you can just about see them here. Mine are covered in duct tape as they haven't been used in a while because I've got J-tube style exhausts, which we'll talk about more in a minute. So I'm just taking that sticky tape off so we can blow some air down them as part of the test. So just taking the tape off these heater ducts here, and so far they're looking pretty good. They've had tape on them, so I assume that's kept some of the moisture out, but there's no rust on the inside and they seem pretty solid. So next up we'll grab the blower, we'll hook a hose up and see if we get an airflow through to the cabin. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at how the heaters work on a classic Beetle. Okay, so here we have a VW Beetle engine, and what you'll notice is that the muffler and exhaust tips here are not actually connected to the engine. And that's because I want to show you a couple of different styles of exhausts. The first one I'm going to show you is the J-tube style exhaust, which gets its name from this here. This is what I've currently got it fitted to Birdie. And here's the actual exhaust, looking a bit rusty. The back of the engine would be here, and here's the J-tubes that I just mentioned. They simply slot in and they go underneath the engine and connect to the front and back cylinders on each side. The engine would sit in the middle there, and that's where the cylinders would be. This is pretty much as simple as an exhaust can get. The exhaust cutters come out the cylinder here at the back, they go through this J-tube exhaust into the muffler, out of the tip, and exit the car. There's also a cylinder at the front here, they go through there the same, and then the same thing on the other side for the front cylinder, and then you can imagine there's another one going to the back cylinder there as well. So we have all four cylinders venting their gases through these J-tubes. Very simplistic setup. The other style that I want to talk about is with a heat exchanger or heater boxes. This style you'll see has got a larger, bulkier exhaust here and this extra bit at the back, and it's also got these extra tubes here connected to the fan shroud at the back here. Up here we have the alternator or generator, depending on your year of Beetle. On the back of that alternator or generator, there's a fan. That fan sits inside the fan shroud, a large piece of engine tinware at the back. The alternator or generator is turned by this belt here, which is connected to the crankcase pulley down here. So as the engine rotates, it turns a generator, which in turn spins this fan. What that fan does is that fan takes cool air from the outside of the car, pushes it through the fan shroud and down through these tubes into the exhaust. If you imagine inside the exhaust there are some tubes, much like we had with the J-tubes that connect to the cylinders, the back and the front, and the same on the other side. This cool air passes around those and then goes out to the car into those connection points that we just saw where I took the tape off of. Meanwhile, you have the hot air gases coming from the engine cylinders going on the inside of that cool air and out the car. So you have the cool air going one way, the hot air going the other way. They never mix, but the hot air heats the cool air on the way through as it gets pumped into the car and we get hot air inside the car. So hopefully now you understand how the heat exchangers work if you didn't already. If you like this kind of more educational content, give me a like and a subscribe and let me know in the comments. If you don't, well, that's fine too. Now let's get on with the testing. It's pretty straightforward. We take that piece of old hose, we put it into the end of the heater channel, and we put some tape around there to make sure we get a good seal. And then I just give it a test. I blow some air through those heater channels, and as you can see here, we're getting air inside the cabin. I checked the top and the bottom, and they were both blowing great. that's enough of that. Now we just do the same for the other side. We get that hose connected up, we blow some air down there, and we see if the left-hand side works as well.
Yeah, that works, it's good. Yeah, down the bottom as well.
And how is that bloke at the back of the car and the front of the car at the same time? And who is he talking to? Well, this one was really a two-person job, and I may have had some help from my beautiful wife. So how does the air get from the engine bay to the top of the dash? It all starts under the rear seats where you see those heater channels enter the car. It then goes down the side of the car to the front. From there, there's a bit of tube that goes from the bottom of the car to the top, which you can see here. That then connects to the back of this vent on the dash. There's also a vent on the floor straight out of that heater channel. So that test went well, and it seems like the heater channels are in great shape. I took a look along the side as well and checked for any leaks, and it all seems totally fine. So that's great news there, and it seems like we've got a clear path to getting the heaters working again. Now what I need to do is head inside the car and take a look at the controls that operate the flaps for the heaters. There's flaps at the back of the car. They open and close to let the heat into the car, and there's a big cable that connects them all. I need to know if that cable was rusted stuck, or if it's broken, if it's still connected, so I need to have a fiddle with that. And this is how you control the heating. There's a knob that you turn, and as you turn that, it pulls on cables, and those cables open and close flaps on the heat exchangers in the exhaust. On a newer Beetle, you might find you've got levers that you pull rather than a knob that you turn. The knob on mine's actually broken, so I can just take it straight off. Then at the back here is where we've got the actual cables that knob at the front connects to. So if we come in here and take a look, you should be able to see just in here, we've got this cable here. It's really hard to see where it's coming from, but that is the opposite end of that knob inside the cabin. And then we have exactly the same kind of thing on the other side. From there, I just want to pull the mechanism out, take a look at it, and put some new grease on. This mechanism is the exact kind of simplicity I am starting to love in this old car. It's just one long continuous cable that goes from the left all the way around to the right and to this adjuster. When you turn it, all you're doing is pulling that cable, and it pulls both sides at the same time and opens or closes those heater flaps. Super simple. And then I just took this part of the assembly out. It just unscrews. You can't take the whole thing out because it's still attached to that cable that runs back to the engine bay. So let's take a look at how this works. What we've got is this sort of square piece on top, and then we've got this silver tube just here. If you take a look at this piece here unscrews with quite a big thread on it and goes back down in here. Now what would normally happen is this piece that we took off earlier would be sitting on top here. That would be on there, and that would be screwed in on here as well. And what that would be doing is clamping this square piece down so it can't come up and out. We'd also have a bar through this hole that we saw us take out earlier, and that will stop it being pulled in. So this square piece won't have anywhere to go. So as you turn it, what's going to happen is instead of this piece moving like you see now, what would happen is actually this piece would be fixed, which would force this silver piece up and down the thread here. And the cable is attached to this silver piece, and that will make the cables longer or shorter, sort of push them out or pull them up. So it's a pretty simple mechanism that pulls a cable and actuates those heater flaps. And as I do this, I can see the cable at the back of the car wiggling, which means it's all connected and it's all working. This is all great news so far, so I can put it back together with a little bit of fresh grease so it moves easily. So I just did a silly. I greased it up, put it back in, and I thought, okay, I'll just give it a twist and see if it's okay, which I did. But as you can see here, I didn't put the pin in, so I turned it and it just screwed itself in because there's nothing stopping it from screwing in. So that's why the pin's there, to stop it pulling down in. So I'll take that top off again and pull it out. Not a big deal really. I can take that collar off, I can pull it up, and I can sort it out. But do be careful, if I'd screwed it in further, I might not have been able to grab it to pull it out. But this is my first time doing this, so try and learn from my mistakes. And now I put it back together again, which is where I made my next little mistake. It's not the end of the world, because it was broken anyway, so I was going to buy a new one, but now I definitely need to buy a new one. I left the pin in just halfway because I knew I wanted to replace the broken knob in the future. However, with it halfway, I turned the knob it cracked the other side. I already have a new one in the post, so it's not a big deal. I'm going to leave this off for now until I put the whole engine back together and I know it's all working perfectly. Overall, it all seems to be working pretty well, and with the right exhaust, I can get heating working back in this car. So I might have tricked you. I might have had this little blower blowing down here, flicking my hair in the wind, but despite all that, everything's working great. The heater channels down the side, they're not rusted through, which is such a common problem with these old Beetles. They're all great. There's no leaks, the air's coming out the dash just fine. Everything is fantastic, and I'm super happy about that. Also, the cables, they seem to be working. I haven't completely finished that yet, but I know enough that either they're working or I can tie something to the end, pull it through and run a new cable when I put the engine back in and get the correct exhaust. So I think that wraps everything up for the heaters. We're looking great. We're gonna get original kind of factory heaters back to this car and be driving it around in the winter, no problem. See you next time.